What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. We're going to go over some price predictions, price targets over the coming days, coming weeks, and analyze what Bitcoin has done relative to this kind of phase in the market throughout its history, throughout its whole existence. So if that sounds good to you, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. This video, I will say, is going to tie rather well with the Bitcoin video I made yesterday. If you haven't seen it, no big deal. We're going to make it coherent nonetheless. But I feel like this is another kind of thing in the proximity of the RSI and the ideas that we were going over yesterday. So anyways, at any rate, anyone who's kept up with the Bitcoin content that I've made over the past week, you're probably going to be a little bit familiar with the concepts I'm going over. But this is a little bit of a new concept. So let's get into it. Hit that like button and let's carry on. So here we are, 2012. This is 2013 right here, 2012. Our very first halving. The reason why we're back here is because we're going to play off of the halvings, okay, each cycle, because I think they really do pertain toward the overall dynamics of the cycle. The first halving was November 28th, 2012. It would have been right here. Before the halving, we had a pre-halving move, pre-halving rally, right, from the bear market lows, rallied all the way up here. Here's your high, pre-halving high. When you broke out of this high, I call this your pre-halving move. This is your post-halving move. Every time you've begun your post-halving move, right, which it only begins after you break out of this pre-halving high, when you break out of it, you see the daily RSI get in the overbought zone for an extended amount of time. Okay, so RSI is in the overbought zone. Not only that, we actually got above the 90. Okay, we got above the 90 several times, and we actually double topped at about 97. Then, only then, after seeing these readings in the deep 90s, right, a couple times, but at this 97 twice, that's when we saw a significant correction, right? So we were in the overbought zone for a significant amount of time. We hit prices or targets above the 90. We even went as high as 97 two times, double top there in the RSI, and then we had a significant pullback, okay? Doesn't matter how long this took. This was like 99 days for anyone, or 95 days, I forget, for anyone who's curious. This amount of time we were in the overbought zone, but that's not what I'm focusing on. So let's carry on. Go to the next halving, okay? If you don't understand what I'm going for right now, don't worry. It'll start to make sense as we continue to do this, right? So 2016 was the next halving, July 9th. July 9th, 2016 would have been somewhere right around here, right? This day exactly. This was your pre-halving high, pre-halving rally, post-halving rally, right? Whenever you broke above this high over here, you were in the overbought zone as well for an extended amount of time. This was 19 days that you were in the overbought zone. When you finally corrected, right? You finally corrected here. You saw somewhat of a double top in the RSI yet again, right? And both of those peaks came in above the 90. All right, above the 90. Yet again, made readings above the 90. This time you didn't get as high as 97. You only got as high as 95, but still deep readings, right? And then finally you saw a correction. Obviously, that was not the end of your cycle. You continued to move on afterwards, but after you broke out from this overbought zone here, after you broke out of your pre-halving high, this was the first significant correction, okay? And it only came after you had readings somewhat of a double top yet again in the RSI above 90. Okay, let's continue. 2020 was the next halving. 2020, May 11th. Would have been here, right here. Our pre-halving high was here, pre-halving rally, mid-cycle lull, and then post-halving rally back here. When we broke above our pre-halving high over here, we were overbought for an extended amount of time, more than 19 days this time. I think it was 30-something days, I forget. But we didn't really correct until later. And that, if you look in the price, look in the RSI, you look at the price, this correction isn't even that dramatic, but out of this whole run up, that is the most significant correction you've seen. So I would say, this was your first corrective phase on this overall move up, right? And that happened once you got out of the overbought zone, okay? But yet again, you look at this overbought zone and you can see here, actually, and maybe that's not even a good metric to go off of. Maybe actually, hey, so you only got to 86. You only got to 86, 87, and if you look, the correction you had, while still significant, it's not really that significant, right? 16%, I wouldn't call that a significant correction. This looks to be a real significant correction, right? You corrected for a little bit of time here. This is a daily perspective, right? A little bit of time, really from November 28th until about a month later, not even a month later, less than a month's time. you were consolidating, and for less than a month's time, the biggest move down you saw was 16.8%. So I don't know if that's a significant correction. Really, like, you're just moving up, and that's your significant correction, right? That very first significant correction came in here, maybe here. Depends on what you want to say is significant, but from a high to a low here, 31%, that's more on par with these significant corrections that we see in the bull cycle, right? We expect 30 to 40% corrections, not this sub 20% stuff. So what I'm getting on about, the whole reason I got tripped up and I'm focusing on this here, is I think it's interesting that this correction was smaller. Okay, you were overbought here in your post-halving breakout. You were overbought, but you didn't get above the 90 this time. In fact, you didn't get your first real correction, I would say, right? In comparison, there's no denying this seems like a blip compared to this, right? Here you corrected from January 8th. You didn't get above it until a month later. So you're consolidating for a month, where here was less than a month. Here you moved down 30%. Here you only moved down half that, right? So definitely more significant. This correction came, or this consolidation came, you didn't even get above the 90s in the RSI. This one came after what? After you got above the 90s. So once you got into the 90s again, then you came out of it. And look at this, even in the RSI, it's a more serious correction, isn't it? Right here, overbought, you corrected, but you didn't go below the 50. You found support on the 50. Here, you actually corrected, and that was once you hit your 90. Not prior till the 90, once you hit the 90. I want to go back and see if we can do this real quick, just for my own well-being. Let's see. Yeah, here, above the 90, you corrected, you went below the 50, okay? That was your real correction, below the 50, right? Next one, 2016, overbought here, yeah, you went below the 50 on your correction there, right? Is that June? No, June. Would it be... It wouldn't be that, actually, would it? It would have been here. Sorry, it would have been here. Looks similar. It would have been here. This is your post-halving breakout here. Went above the 90. That was your correction, below the 50, right? And then here, even, I don't know how much sense this is making. I'm kind of going off the deep end here, but at least I know what I'm navigating here. So I don't know if you guys know what I'm navigating, but I'm just going to roll with it anyways. Here, you actually saw, before you broke out, right, before you broke the pre-halving high here in 2016, before you broke out above this high, you actually saw a little stint in the overbought zone where, again, you didn't go above the 90, but you corrected and found support on the 50. And if you look, your consolidation was not intense at all. You had a very insignificant kind of phase of consolidation, and then later you consolidated hard, but only later did you consolidate hard after you saw a breakout move above the 90 and you went below the 50, right, for your correction. That was your significant correction. Okay, and then going back to 2020, hopefully this is all making sense. If not, I feel like I'm on a roll either way, so just keep up if you can't, but I don't know what else to say. 2020, again here, once you broke out, come on now, maybe I should do this. Once you broke out of your pre-halving high, which was all the way back here, you broke out of it, you were overbought for a good bit. This time, you did not get above the 90, but you did pull back to the 50, and you had an insignificant correction. You only got your more significant correction once you hit the 90, and then you pulled back below the 50. That's where you actually got your significant correction. Going on with that kind of idea, if we look to the current day, the current halving, which our most recent halving was April 20th of 2024 this year, right? Sorry, I have asthma. It's a part of asthma. Look it up. Clearing your throat. It's a symptom of asthma. Here's our last halving. Pre-halving move high right here. Once we broke it, we got overbought for an extended amount of time. We did not hit the 90. We pulled out of it. Normally this is a corrective phase, but as we've seen with the last cycle, when you don't hit the 90 and you find support above the 50 in your RSI, and we're in this trend, right? We're definitely finding support in this trend here. Then you correct insignificantly and you push on higher, where then you will correct more significantly, right? That's the kind of big aha puzzle piece that I wanted to bring to you guys. If it hasn't clicked yet, maybe watch this video back. I don't know. Hold on. I don't know how else to make sense out of it or what else to say. Essentially, all I'm saying is what we've seen in Bitcoin's history is we don't get that correction, right? After breaking above, here's your pre-halving high, right? The pre-halving high, what is that? That's the high pre-halving, before the halving. The high relative to your pre-halving move. What's your pre-halving move? It's the move that once you come out of your bear market, you move up before the halving. We always have our pre-halving move, and then our post-halving move is way larger. Once we begin the post-halving move is once we get above our pre-halving high. Every time we've done this move, at very first, we are in the overbought zone for an extended amount of time, for at least like 18, 19 days or more. This cycle, it was 18 days. 2 cycles ago, it was 19 days. The cycle before, it was like 30-something days. In the very first cycle, it was like 99 days. The very first halving cycle, I should say. The only times that we've corrected after getting out of the overbought zone, right? After being overbought for this extended amount of time, the only time that we've actually corrected for like a month or so, right? The only time we've actually done that is when we've seen readings above 90. And we haven't seen that here. In fact, the only other time that we didn't see readings above 90 when we had this initial post-halving move, when we're residing in the overbought zone like this, the only time we didn't see a reading above 90 at first, before getting out of the overbought zone, was when we saw that very insignificant correction last cycle, kind of comparable to this insignificant correction that we're having this cycle. And then we had a real tear. We started to run up, right? I would compare, what I'm trying to say essentially is I would compare this right now based off of what we're doing in the RSI. And of course it's going to be different, but I would compare that move right there directly to, let's see, where are we at here? Is this 2022? Okay, we need to go back further. I would compare it to this move right here, right? There, right there. Except I don't think we only have this much left of the cycle. I think this cycle is cut off short. What I'm really trying to identify is not this overall look here, and I'll get rid of the RSI so we can see this. I'm not trying to get this overall picture per se, right? That's not the cycle dynamic that I'm going for. What I'm trying to say is this move, this initial move, when you break out of your pre-halving high, look, the initial move was this. If we delete everything, right, you can see you broke out of your high right here. Okay, this was your move. You didn't have your first stop until here, and then you went up. An insignificant correction there, but like really, if you look at this, he basically just moved straight up, right? And then you saw a significant correction. Okay, somewhat significant corrections here as well, but that's not so significant. I'm not talking about this. What I'm really trying to focus on is if we are here in this move, right? This is what we had beforehand. This is what we had afterwards. Look at what happened, right? Look at this. The pre-insignificant consolidation phase that we had here. This is how big it was coming up, right? Maybe even a little bit bigger. Let's draw it like that, whatever, to the high. Okay, that's how big it was. And then once you got done with this insignificant consolidation, on your way to the more significant consolidation from the low point there, and not even the low point of that consolidation, just the low point before you started to move, that was your move. And you can see here, that move was larger and faster. So you had a pace, you picked up the pace here, breaking out, again, this horizontal white line is your pre-halving high. You picked up the pace compared to anything you've seen, right, other than this little bounce you had during the COVID crash. You picked up your pace here. You really picked up your pace. Once you broke above the pre-halving high, you picked up your pace. After you had this little insignificant consolidation, which again came in after being overbought in the RSI for some time, you didn't get above the 90. You did pull back and you held the 50 for support. Higher lows in your RSI. You went back to the overbought zone, saw a reading in the 90, and that is what set you up. That is what primed you for your actual significant correction. Your first, I would actually say your first significant correction since you broke out of the pre-halving high, right? And you can see it. You moved up here, and it's telling you the same thing, right? If you don't understand the RSI, it's telling you the same thing on the readings that I'm about to tell you with my mouth, okay? This move was not as powerful as this move, right? This move up into this insignificant consolidation phase was not as powerful as this move up, which led to the more significant consolidation phase, something more on par with what we see in bull markets, right? And we can see that with our naked eyes, and we can also see that in the readings, right? This move up here was clearly not as strong as this move up here. Why do we say that? Well, this one got stronger readings. It's the RSI, the Relative Strength Index. This part that I'm going over right now would tie in very well with yesterday's video. Okay, just to kind of, if you're looking for more of an understanding of what I'm going over, or at least the kind of concept, the conclusion that I'm trying to draw here, essentially what I'm saying and what backs up what I was saying yesterday is that I'm expecting this next move, because we're comparing it here, right? We're comparing it to the breakout move of the previous halving, right? We had our first move, we had our insignificant consolidation phase, we're about to start our next run up. Yesterday I was saying I expect this next run up to be bigger, faster, more ferocious than the first move, right? That's what I was saying. And if we bring it back over here, we're not looking back in history, we're looking at current times. Broke out of our pre-halving high here. Here was our first move, okay, right here. First part of this move. Insignificant consolidation phase right here. Okay, we got into the overbought zone. Strong readings, but not as strong as like a 90 plus read, right? I believe we're about to get that 90 plus read right now. That's what this move is going to be. And like I was saying yesterday, and like we just concluded in this video, likely if we're going to get a stronger read in this RSI than what we had on these highs here, likely we're going to get a stronger move overall, right? And a stronger move overall, we don't even have to guess where it's going to be. I mean, we are guessing to a certain degree, obviously, but what I'm trying to say is we don't have to use any fancy indicators other than the RSI if we believe this next move is going to go above the 90, because it has every single time before we got a significant correction. If we believe that it's going to happen because of that reason, if we believe it's going to happen because we have a parallel trend here in the RSI right here, right? We're bouncing off. Every time we bounce off the bottom, we come up to the top here, right? It's not the most perfect thing ever, but you can see what I'm going for. If we are to go to the top here, likely, here's where 90 is, okay? Here's where 90 is. It's right there. Likely we're going to be above the 90. Likely we're going to be above the 90, because we're not just going to go straight up right now today and then that's it. That's not going to happen, right? Likely it's going to take at least a few days or so, or a week, right? Moving up at still a steady pace, something above 90 is likely. Going on par with what we've seen in previous cycles, we always have that first significant correction after we hit the 90 reads, right? After we hit the 90 reads, and sometimes it's actually accompanied by a double top. If we're going to see a plus 90 read here, I would assume that this next phase up would be stronger than the first phase up. Here's your first phase up, right? Not this whole thing, right? Here's your real move. Here's your breakout move right here. From a low, that's not even the full move. From the low to the high, right here, right? That's your full move. If we're expecting this next move to be stronger than this move here, and that's what I'm saying, then that would mean at a minimum we'd be expecting the price by the time we see the first kind of significant correction for Bitcoin. By significant, I mean something that's larger than 20%, genuinely something that's probably larger than 30%, around 30% or more of a correction. It wouldn't be until we see prices above 130, 130K. And if we move at the same pace, right, because that's exactly, I drew this line here from the low. You can see it's basically at that low to that high. It's at the same pace, same rate. If we were to do that, that would put us above 130K by the midway point of December, you guys. Which is pretty nuts. Pretty nuts. Now, I'm not saying it has to happen. Just because we've done it throughout Bitcoin's history doesn't mean it has to happen. Just because it looks like we're in a parallel channel that's pointed upwards in the RSI doesn't mean it has to happen. We could, however unlikely it may seem, we could form a lower high here. We could form a double top here and don't see a 90 read. And either of those outcomes would still, from here, push Bitcoin well above 100K. Okay? But if we're getting above the 90s, there's no way I don't see Bitcoin hitting at least 120K, if not 130K. And genuinely, it only makes sense if we get the stronger readings, we will get the stronger move. Okay? And if you want to say, well, from here to there, that's not the overall move. Here, it's from here to here. That's the overall move. Okay, well, we could do that too. You know, from there to there. And that still puts us at, you know, 128K, 126K. So something well past 120 is coming our way, guys. And it's coming fast. It's the first of December right now. We're looking like we're about to bounce off of this low point, if I could get it, this low point in the RSI here. The 4-hour RSI actually does look kind of sad. I was going to say I thought it looked good, but actually looking at it now, it actually does look kind of sad. So we got a little conflict there going with the 4-hour and the daily. Something's going to have to give. And really the 4-hour could go down and the daily is still fine, because the daily could go down a little bit and it's still bouncing off of this area, right? We had a little double bottom here, for example, and it was fine. You had a double bottom back here, for example, so I think it's totally fine. We could go down in the daily just to see that, but also the 4-hour is lesser than the daily, so the daily might be more dominant, but the 4-hour does look like we want to come down a little bit. 1 hour in a position to bounce, though it also looks weak, I would say. But it looks like you're coming to the end of this consolidation. Like very soon, guys, I very much do expect that Bitcoin in a very short amount of time is going to be not just above 100K, but above 120K. And that's it, I guess. That's really all I wanted to talk about, is I think we're not going to get our first significant correction for Bitcoin until we see readings that are above 90 in the RSI. We haven't gotten readings above 90 yet. We've gotten very close, but we haven't gotten there yet. This posturing in the RSI, very, very bullish. Very, very bullish structure. And it says that we have higher to go. Not just higher, but stronger readings than what we've seen throughout this whole move so far coming up, right? And as you can see, if you look at this RSI trend for what it is, it's only gotten stronger as it progresses through, right? You've only gotten stronger. Only seen higher highs and higher lows as it's progressed. So whether I'm onto something with this move being bigger than this move, whether I'm onto something with that or not, we're at least going to see something fierce coming probably over the next week, man. Like over this week, I would bet before the midway point of December, before probably even the 10th of December, we're going to be well above 100K. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good opening to this month, you guys. And I'm excited, and you should be too. And that's all I got to say. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.